Dear students, hope you all are well. In your previous class, I talked about lesson 2 of unit 2 from your textbook. You have already known that unit 2 of your textbook deals with some of the greatest scientific achievements. Today I shall discuss lesson 3 from this unit. It's about scientific achievement we are waiting for or that have not happened yet. The title of the lesson is Scientific Breakthroughs We Are Waiting for 1. So let's start our today's class. Okay, dear students, let's have a glance at the names of the contents of today's lesson. The contents are DNA computer, permanent moon base, clean energy, cure for cancer, and we will discuss some question and answer, some vocabularies, and matching sentences. Dear students, science has grown rapidly over the past few centuries, making things possible that are once considered completely impossible. Science has done a lot to cure many of our worldly troubles, but one thing about science is that it isn't perfect and never will be. The reason for this is that there is no last word in science. There is always more to discover. So before starting our today's lesson, let's consider this question. Why do we think there is no last word with science? Now we will read some pieces of texts dealing with some of the greatest scientific breakthroughs that have not happened yet. Dear students, now let's look at this picture. What can you see? I think you can understand that this is a picture of a DNA on some computer keys. We will try to understand a text dealing with DNA computer. Imagine having an iPod capable of holding thousands of years of high definition video. A DNA computer would make such a device very possible. I think you are familiar with HD or high definition videos. What would happen if our iPod or any electronic device could hold thousands of years of HD videos? This dream can be materialized with the invention of DNA computer. DNA is a substance that living organisms use to store genetic information. Now, what is DNA? It is a substance of living organisms where genetic information is stored. Here, DNA computer means a computer where DNA is used as a memory to store and process data in the computer. What makes DNA special is that it is extremely efficient when it comes to storing information in a limited space. In a limited space, DNA can hold huge information. Just 1 milligram of DNA is capable of holding all the printed materials in the world. Dear students, you will be astonished to learn that just 1 milligram of DNA can store in its memory all the printed materials in the world. DNA computing is currently in its infancy with prototypes such as Maya 2 only capable of showing the concept. The invention of DNA computer is in the beginning stage, and Maya 2 is an example of a model computer that shows the concept of DNA computing. If DNA computing is perfected, computers will become capable of holding amounts of information that are hard to imagine by today's standard. So you already understand if DNA computing is developed fully, we will be able to hold or store the amount of information beyond our imagination. Dear students, now let's look at another picture. What can you see? This is an imaginary infrastructure on moon. Now we will read a text dealing with permanent moon base which many organizations are trying to construct. Ever since setting up human habitation in space was first imagined, it was thought that the moon would be the first object to be colonized since it was closest to Earth. We know in solar system moon is closest to Earth. So when humans thought of going and setting habitation in outer space, they first preferred moon. In 1969, when man first walked on moon, a permanent colony suddenly appeared to be very achievable. From your previous lesson, you already know that humans first went to moon in 1969. Since then, it has been assumed that a permanent base or a colony in the moon would be possible one day. However, for a variety of reasons, both economic and technical, the project was never truly attempted. But because of various economic and technological limitations, the dream of making a permanent base in the moon has not yet been possible. However, NASA currently has plans to have a one constructed by 2024. The European Space Agency ESA has also plans to construct a moon base by 2025, and Japan and India also each have plans to have a base by 2030. The biggest barrier to a base is money. Many people within NASA, including Buzz Aldrin, have criticized the building of a moon base, saying that NASA should put more focus on different issues like clean energy. The biggest challenge of constructing a permanent moon base is collecting and spending huge amount of money. Because of this, many people working in NASA, including Buzz Aldrin, the American astronaut who was the second person to set foot on the moon, have criticized the building of a moon base. They also suggest that NASA should put focus on other more important issues like clean energy. Let's look at another picture. You can notice rows of solar panels and wind turbines. These are renewable and clean energy. Now we will read a text dealing with clean energy, the production of which does not pollute or harm the environment. While many alternatives to fossil fuels have been investigated, there is still quite a way to go before mankind's energy supply is completely renewable. You know, fossil fuels are fuels formed by natural processes such as decomposition of buried dead organisms, coal, petroleum, natural gas, oil, etc. Fossil fuels are not renewable and their stocks are limited. One day we will run out of them. So, alternative sources of energy are still being investigated with some success. However, we still have a long way to go before developing our complete dependence on renewable sources of energy such as sunlight, wind, rain, tides, etc. As of today, about 85% of all energy comes from fossil fuels. Still now, around 85% of all energy comes from fossil fuels such as coal, petroleum, natural gas, oil, etc. The reason clean energy is considered to be important is because fossil fuels are not expected to last much longer. They pollute the environment and they have led to tensions between nations. For three reasons, clean energy is considered to be important. Firstly, fossil fuels will not last much longer and their stocks are limited. Secondly, the consumption of fossil fuels is not environment friendly. And thirdly, we see tension or even large struggle for taking control of oil, gas, etc. The reason clean energy is hard to come by is that we have spent the past 150 years dependent on oil, and it's quite difficult to make the switch. Despite the necessity of consuming clean energy, it's difficult to largely depend on it because we have been accustomed to using oil. So, to make a switch from oil to any clean energy is very hard. Some have even suggested that technology for producing vast amount of clean energy already exists, but it is being suppressed by big oil companies. It is suggested that technological equipment and support for the consumption of clean energy exist, but they are being controlled by large oil companies for their financial gains. However, several European countries have produced considerable amount of clean energy. In spite of the above mentioned barriers, some European countries have produced considerable amount of clean energy. Current methods of clean energy include wind, solar, geothermal, tidal, hydropower, nuclear, and biofuel. The current system of clean energy consists of wind, solar, geothermal, tidal, hydropower, nuclear, and biofuel. Our next piece of text is about cure for the deadly disease cancer. Cancer is one of the deadliest diseases of the modern era. Ever since the days of Hippocrates, people have been searching for a cure. Hippocrates was a Greek physician who was one of the most outstanding figures in the history of medicine. Since the time of Hippocrates, people have been searching for a cure for cancer. Cancer is similar to the common cold in that although there are many ways to treat it, modern medicine is still yet to come up with a cure. This is particularly because, like the common cold, there are many different types of cancer and they're all slightly different. The deadly disease cancer can be compared with common cold in some aspects. Like a common cold, there are many different types of cancers and there is very little difference between them. Unfortunately, with all over 7 million deaths per year, a cancer is much more serious than the common cold. There is no doubt that cancer is more serious than common cold as over 7 million people die of cancer every year. A wide assortment of drugs, chemicals, stem cells, genetically modified viruses, and even arsenic has all been proposed as cancer cures. Various types of drugs, chemicals, stem cells, genetically modified viruses, and even arsenic have been proposed as the cure for cancer. Dear students, here is a list of vocabulary for you to learn. I suggest you to pause the video and learn them carefully. Now there are some questions for you to answer. Again, I suggest you to write the answers in the comment section. Finally, there is a question for making flowchart. I hope you have already learned how to make a flowchart. I suggest you to make a flowchart and write the answers in the comment section. Dear students, I would like to end my today's class here. If you have any question, you can write in the comment section. Thank you for your patience.